The Exodus is one of the most recognizable narratives in human history. Billions are familiar with its milestones, the sequence of devastating plagues, the miraculously parted seas, and the final confrontation between a reluctant prophet and the most powerful ruler on earth. Yet a close reading of the text reveals a total silence at its center. The ruler of Egypt, the figure who commands the chariots and enslaves the Israelites, is never named. He is only referred to by his title, Pharaoh. This omission is striking because ancient Egypt was defined by meticulous record-keeping. They carved their history into the very stone of the desert, and we are still recovering those archives today, including the recently unearthed 3,500-year-old tomb of King Thutmose II. If the Exodus occurred as described, there must be a specific historical individual who sat on the throne during the plagues. But in the Egyptian record, this monumental figure remains an enigma. This discrepancy forces us to reconcile the vivid detail of the world's most influential text with the physical silence of the archaeological record. To find a candidate, many start with the chronology found in the Book of Kings. By counting back 480 years from the construction of Solomon's Temple, we arrive at the year 1446 BC, placing the event deep within Egypt's 18th dynasty. This calculation points directly to Pharaoh Amenhotep II, who ruled Egypt during this precise window. Proponents of this timeline note several correlations. Amenhotep II was not his father's firstborn son, allowing him to survive the final plague. Furthermore, his own eldest son, Prince Thutmose, died as a child, leaving a younger brother to eventually take the throne, a succession that aligns with the biblical death of the firstborn. His family history provides another link. His stepmother was Hatshepsut, the formidable queen who reigned as a pharaoh herself. Given her wealth and status, she is often identified as the royal daughter who pulled a Hebrew baby from the Nile. Years after her death, Pharaoh Amenhotep II led a campaign to systematically deface Hatshepsut's statues across all of Egypt. Some theorists argue this was more than political erasure. It was a personal strike against the woman who raised his greatest enemy, Moses. Finally, Egyptian records show that shortly after the proposed 1446 BC date, Amenhotep II launched a sudden, massive military raid to capture over 100,000 slaves, a desperate effort to replace a suddenly vanished labor force. While these data points are compelling, they rely on a strictly literal interpretation that often hits a wall when confronted with competing evidence. A different literal reading points to a later era. The Bible mentions the Israelites building the city of Pi-Ramesses, a site that didn't exist until the 13th century DC under Ramesses II. This creates a fundamental contradiction. If you follow the 1446 BC timeline, the city didn't exist. If you follow the geography of Pi-Ramesses, the math of the 18th dynasty fails. Then there is the matter of scale. The biblical census lists over 600,000 men, suggesting a total group of over 2 million people. Moving a population that large for 40 years should have left an unmistakable trail behind. Despite decades of intensive excavation, the massive Sinai Desert remains archaeologically silent. There are no vast encampments, no discarded pottery, and no mass graves to support a migration of this magnitude. The first time Israel actually appears in an Egyptian text is on the Merneptah stele, dated around 1207 BC. It describes the Israelites not as escaping slaves, but as a group already settled in the land of Canaan. This suggests that the search for one specific historical pharaoh may be failing because the premise itself is misplaced. Modern archaeology suggests that understanding the Exodus requires looking past individual kings to the broader forces that shaped the Israelite people. Evidence shows that early Israelite settlements in these highlands emerged indigenously from the local Canaanite population. Archaeological surveys reveal a direct continuity in pottery styles and architecture, proving that the people who formed Israel were largely the same people who had lived in Canaan for generations. However, during the late second millennium, Egypt ruthlessly ruled this region. Under the 19th and 20th dynasties, the empire extracted heavy taxes and forced labor from the Canaanites, embedding a shared experience of Egyptian oppression into the local culture. Most scholars believe a small group of Semitic slaves likely did manage a real escape from Egypt, migrating north and merging with these highland communities. Their story of breaking free from the Egyptian empire resonated with the Canaanite highlanders, who were already struggling under that same imperial rule, eventually becoming the foundational story for the entire group. Over centuries, these various memories of local oppression and a successful Egyptian escape were woven into a single epic foundational myth, a story designed to forge a unified national identity. This explains why the pharaoh remains unnamed in the Bible. He's not intended to be a single historical king. He is an amalgamation of every ruler who ever stood in the way of their freedom. By stripping away his specific name, the authors transformed the pharaoh into a timeless symbol of systemic empire and tyranny. The validity of the Exodus does not rely on finding a sunken chariot at the bottom of the sea. Its power lies in its function as an ideological foundation for a culture. It has served as a blueprint for liberation for over 2,000 years, inspiring marginalized groups from ancient times to the modern civil rights movement. The pharaoh of the Exodus is missing from the history books because he is a universal warning rather than a historical fact. The story of overcoming him remains a living legacy, celebrated every year as a testament to the human struggle for freedom.